get this a realization is get these young people voting. I just want to throw that one out there. I teach at the college and I preach it every semester. You know, you have to exercise your rights. It's your civic responsibility. So getting these kids to vote is super important, and I'm in a great position to do that, and I actually have got a lot of them to vote. I am also happy to see that there are a lot of, let's say, blue people here today, because then when I say toddler in chief, I'm not going to offend anyone. So that's an important thing for me. I do, as Vicki said, I do have 28 years of IT industry experience. Over the past 15 years, I've really dedicated myself to focusing on security. One of the big things that I'm really, really passionate about is making sure that our elections are fair and legal, and I truly believe that what we experienced in the last general election was a travesty to our democracy. So when I was approached with the opportunity to give a speech about this topic, I jumped all over it, because I truly believe that all of us are needed to make a difference in this nation. I will be available for questions briefly afterward. I want to get out and enjoy this beautiful day. I was thinking about catching a round of golf, but I think I might have missed my opportunity last weekend. And if you have any questions at any point over what I'm going over, go ahead and stop me and just ask. In my classroom, I never make kids raise their hands, because, you know, discussions require a free thought rather than waiting to be called on. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask. Which, by the way, my wife is an English major, and she said that electioneering is not a word, and I guarantee you it is. I used it, and it wasn't even a red squiggly underline in the slide. It must be a word. So it's super important that we are active in what we do. First off, I'm glad to tell you that about half of you have already seen The Great Hack. It was a scary, scary documentary when you look at, or when you watch it. But what's more is, over the past month that I've been researching this, it only scratches the surface of how scared we should be about things happening. Because, by and large, what Cambridge Analytica did was they bought and sold our data. They didn't even have to buy it. They found it. We have a ton of data that's freely available about all of us, and they just took it. They collected all of it, and they sold it to the highest bidder. Some names like Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, and that's the Leave EU vote that happened, that, you know, we're still facing ramifications of it with Brexit right now, which we're not even going to talk about that, because that is an absolute disaster right now. Cambridge Analytica was behind all of it, and they are the reason why, largely the reason why we are in the position that we are right now in this nation and in England right now. So really what they did was illegal. And despite the fact that certain courts here in the United States said that it was perfectly legal, if it was, why are they no longer in business? Why is Alexander Nix in prison? Because he was doing legal stuff? Last I checked, they don't imprison people following the law. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how they actually collected the data, and more importantly, because I do deal with a lot of youth, and I do have Gen Z kids, one of which is voting age already, how did they make our youth so ambivalent toward politics? And they are largely responsible for it. We're also going to talk a little bit about the dreaded fake news. But we're going to talk about what's really fake news rather than what they claim is fake news. Fake news is not, if you don't believe it, it's not true and it's fake. That's not fake news. So we're going to talk about that and how it's used to sway opinions in elections, because it is very scary. We've all seen attack ads for a really long time from politicians, but in this era of social media, attack ads are even more brutal. And they sway people, and the young people are the ones that really get it. And lastly, we're going to talk about how you can help. You're already in a good step right now by actually taking action on it. How you spot falsehoods,
We're going to talk a little bit about that, how to spread accurate information, and how to stop your data from being used by the next Cambridge Analytica, because there are more out there than just that. So first off, ooh, that's a little blurry. Let me see if I can sharpen that up just a hair. I'll make it farther. Oh, is it good now?
Yeah.
All right. It's been a while since I've had to deal with those. They were by and large a marketing firm. All they did was market, but what they marketed was personal data. And it's really important when you think about that. Because they are a marketing firm, that means that they had access and the ability to generate advertising. And because that is the case with it, we actually have to look at some of what they did. They had a three-pronged approach to their market. They had data mining, data brokerage, and data analytics. And it sounds super scary. I actually had to write these ones down because I wasn't sure what the difference is with them. Data mining is discovering patterns in data sets. So if you have a huge set of data, being able to find patterns in all of that. And it sounds far-fetched if you think about like stock market stuff. Trying to find patterns in stock market is how people get rich off of it. You can't really find a pattern because it's too chaotic. But when you're talking about people, there are patterns.
Question.
Yeah.
Where do you put the aggregators in this breakout?
The aggregators of the data?
Yeah.
Well, that's actually what Cambridge did. They were the aggregator of the data. They, because what they did is between the mining and then the brokerage, because the brokerage is pulling, hold on, definition is the collection of personal data from public records. And all of us have a ton of data in public record. Homeowners, your ownership, public record. You got married, public record. You had a child, public record. You have a car, public record. And they aggregated the collection of all this data. That is data brokerage. And lastly, data analysis is the inspecting, cleansing, transforming, and modeling of data with a goal of discovering useful information. So, using all this data that they've collected, you know, they find patterns in it, they collect it from public sources, and they did a little shadier stuff too that we're going to talk about. But using that, they were able to do analysis on all that data and say, well, because we know all of this about all of these people, we can make general assessments about regions. And they looked at regions where you could change people's opinions. If we look at the gerrymandering that's done in so many states, they aren't going to target areas where, through gerrymandering, are solidly red, because they didn't need to. They already marginalized all the minority votes and all the Democratic votes. So they, with their analysis, and this is what they got paid the big money for, said, well, these are the areas that we're really going to target. Look at the states where it was really integral that Cambridge Analytica played a role in. We're one of them. Wisconsin and Ohio. The three that were the last votes, or the last ones to finally declare for our toddler-in-chief, which they're the ones that also had the most advertising dollars spent in those three states. It's a scary thought when you think about it, because that means that people that we know may have been swayed to voting some way else than what they should have, based off of advertising done by Cambridge, because they spent time and money mining the data, brokering data, and then doing an analysis on it to figure out what they needed to say to really make people want to change their vote. Yeah?
Would you put Pennsylvania in there too?
I would probably add Pennsylvania also, but they didn't have as many marketing dollars, which I found really odd. Largely the Pennsylvania vote, they aren't as gerrymandered as Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin. But they have a lot of manual laborers, coal miners, things like that, steel workers. So it was an easier sell for them than for the other states that saw this happen as well. And it's a real travesty to see this happen, because all it took was a little bit of know-how, and with computers now, it was super easy for them to do.
Was anything illegal in terms of the mining, brokerage, or analytics? Was anything illegal on this slide?
At this point, no. Everything that they did was perfectly legal at this point, because data brokerage is all public record.
Correct.
And the mining is just, getting, putting things in line, and then analytics is, they use AI to form models based off of what they found.
You can basically call your second major bullet point a tool.
Yeah.
And there's nothing illegal about the tool.
There's nothing illegal.
And it can be used on either side of the fence.
Right.
Yep. And so it's at this point, if they would have stopped there, everything would have been fine. Because we've seen this. We've seen this for the past, 30 years or so. Elected officials utilizing data firms to figure out how they should advertise, where they should advertise, and what kind of dollars they should spend in what locations. And this just took it to a much, much higher level. Because how you became data is an important thing. And these are things we can't change this. The legal methods of getting data: real estate records, DMV records, voter data records, and other publicly available records. You got married, a family member passed away, so you were mentioned in an obituary. All of this, public record. All those genealogy sites, public record. And you can't stop any of that. So that's perfectly fine. Nothing you can do about that. But they also used illegal methodology. They harvested data through social media. How many of you use social media? Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, anything like that? And that's a vast majority of you. So they actually had a backdoor built in an application called Your Digital Life. And 270,000 Facebook users use that app. You might not have been one of those 270,000. I wasn't. Chances are most of you weren't. But because the way this backdoor was set up, it allowed it to connect to people that they knew that used or that didn't use it. So, say I used it. And all of you, because I mentioned on the Indivisibles page, I use the app. Therefore, all of you are now affected by it also because of me. That should scare you. So, in the course of 6 months, it went from 270,000 users actually using this application and went to 87 million affected by it. If you want to talk about like health viruses in a human body, this would be the humanity killer right there with the spread that it had. And it was very, very fast, and there was nothing that we could do about it.
What specifically in that area is illegal?
So this is, I'm glad you asked that. What makes this illegal is the fact that it is using a backdoor in a valid application. Now, I say it's a valid application simply because it was offered and it was accepted by Google and Apple as valid applications to go into their app store, and it tied to social media sites. It didn't necessarily hit Facebook. It could also hit Instagram and what's the other one that kids are using? Snapchat. There you go. Thank you. I couldn't remember the name of that one. I don't use it.
So wasn't it that the 270,000 consented to some survey?
The 270,000 consented to this, and it would just generate, hey, what do you feel about, I don't know, some random thing. Which one of the other fun ones was, which Harry Potter character are you? And it's through taking ridiculous surveys like that, and the backdoor in that app, because this is Your Digital Life, was basically a conveyor of other things. They had a backdoor written into it. They started collecting data from it. And nothing that you could do would stop it. As long as one of your friends did it, it could hook into their account and find out their friends list and hook into all their friends.
And that's illegal?
And that is illegal because that is against Facebook's data policy. And this is the reason why Facebook has been in the news so much since 2016 is because their policy says they don't share personal data with anyone, but here they are, through this app, sharing personal data with everyone. So that's one of the big things, and they didn't take steps to secure your data. They didn't care. One of the interesting things I found while looking through all of this stuff for the past month is that there is actually a very strong belief that the reason they didn't do anything to stop it is it was actually part of their business model for monetization.
If this is illegal, why is it that Zuckerberg hasn't been indicted?
They actually tried, and the reason he was not indicted is because they found that he was not culpable for allowing this to happen. It was through negligence. And negligence is not something you can be in prison for.
Yeah.
And so, because of that, they've actually really tightened up their security. One of the other things I found is Zuckerberg and their development team were trying to make it to secure their messaging apps to prevent other things from hooking into it. They wanted to enable security from end to end between messengers, and Congress told them no. Because they wanted to have backdoors into their system if they needed to get information about potential terrorists. And that's now the third time that has happened since 2016. And that's our elected officials saying, no, we need to be able to snoop on what's going on. So this is not something that we have any control over without voting people out of office. And if we don't vote the right way, then really what's going to happen with our rights, with our data rights? Because Cambridge Analytica did this for upwards of 5 years before anyone found out. They were responsible for all kinds of elections, globally speaking, not even just ours. They affected elections in Africa and Europe long before they affected our elections. Ooh, what did you find? Something good?
Oh, no, I was just pointing out that this is also a classic privacy tort, which is the unconsented exploitation of
Thank you. That's
private facts. The
Yes.
difficulty is you don't know that it's happened, you don't know who did it, and the jurisdictional issues are frightful.
It is very frightening. And this is all how you became money for Cambridge Analytica. All your data. Now, it even went further into that, because one of the fun things that I found, since they use legal methods, I found myself. I can also tell you, and I've intentionally blurred out my relatives' names that are listed here, but almost all of this information, 100% accurate. And it took me less than 2 minutes to find that. You can do that for yourself. You can search for yourself on the internet, and there you go. Yep, look at that. Instructor, Northwestern Michigan College. Yep, I went to Ferris. Yep, 43 from Traverse City. Caucasian. The only thing that's wrong on it is it says I'm single, and I've been married for 20 years. So, that's the only thing on this slide that is not accurate. And that was scary. I actually tell my students that I can find out information about them within 5 minutes without using college resources. Most of them don't believe me. I can.
You don't have to pay for that?
Nope. This was free. For $5, you can find out even more information about a person than what this shows. This is just one of the freely available ones. So, that should...
Here's the top where it says public, private.
Yes, well, all right, so interesting thing, there's a link that says, this is me, control this page. I tried doing that, and it errored out trying to go to the control page. Yep, coincidentally, I couldn't take control of it. And one of the other interesting things is there's a reputation score of a 4.35 out of 5. I would give this about a 4.9 out of 5. because that's how accurate it is, and it's scary to see it. It knows that I also lived in Oklahoma City. I'm surprised it doesn't have the fact that I was in the United States Air Force in it also.
So what else would you have found for $5?
For $5, I could have also got my social security number, all of my relatives' social security numbers, any legal action that was pending against me or any of my relatives. Because you can see up top, criminal or civil court records found in my family, friends, neighbors, or classmates, and that's true, and I even know who it is. It's my brother. Yeah.
Has anybody tried to make that aspect of it illegal?
They can't, because all this does is aggregates public record. Nothing about this is not public record.
Social Security?
For $5 more, you can actually generate social security numbers. There's a set pattern to social security numbers and driver's license numbers that you can figure out anyone's driver's license number and social security number with a little bit of know-how. All you need is their last name and where they live, which you can get right here.
So the question is, why isn't that illegal?
It is not illegal because there's nothing in our law system that says that you can't do this. And because we are founded on public records being freely available, and we all want transparency in government, well, we have forced transparency for us, but not for them. And because of that transparency, this is what we get.
When big data aggregation started, I attended a lecture on it, and the guy that gave the lecture actually pulled up the social security number of the director of the CIA because it was on his mortgage application.
Yes, it was.
And the county where he bought his house had put that information online.
Yep.
I can see that.
Yep. Vicki, I hate to break it to you, I looked you up and all of your information was also accurate on here.
Oh, what?
Could you show us?
No, I did not. For her safety, I did not grab a snap of it. It listed 5 or 6 relatives of yours also, and I could drill down into them and find out where they lived as well.
You can find out what jail they're in.
So it is, I mean, this right here should be enough to scare all of us out of complacency. But it doesn't, because we want that transparency. So you roll with it.
I absolutely do not want that.
You don't, but we want our government officials to have transparency.
Well, that's different. I mean, restricted.
I truly believe that if we have to be transparent with our stuff here, they should be transparent with theirs also.
That's right.
People doing
Also, a lot of this flies under the flag of convenience
Yes.
and entertainment. Look at the quality of the graphics. It's very peppy. It's very user-liking.
Yeah, very much so. So yeah, and I don't remember the name of this site. I intentionally snipped it off of here, but a quick search. And all right, so because I'm big into security, I also do stuff, you know, on the dreaded dark web, and I used the dark web to find this. There were a lot of other choices that I could have gone with.
The lights went out.
Yeah. Oh, great! I didn't mean to scare everyone into the lights going out.
David, what is the good? What did the good needle mean?
This is the confidence they have in the information being accurate. That's their reputation score.
Okay.
Saying that they're fairly confident that this data is accurate.
Do they mine data from like your grocery store cards and things like that?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought up grocery store cards because that's another point of data aggregation. And when we talk about what you can do to help prevent this, that's going to be one of the things that we talk about. Oh man, you guys are all on the ball. That's great. I wish my students were like that. So this, hold on, this one's going to scare you even more. You might notice or recognize the last names up here, Hostler, Hostler, and Hostler. That's my mom, dad, and sister. This list, and again, I'm not going to mention where I got it, but it has every voting record of Michigan for the 2016 election freely available. And it is, I can tell you, I threw this in Excel, and it was too many rows of data for Excel to handle. And that goes up to a, what is it, like 7 million lines, rows of data. And there's tables for every election since 1992 on the site that I found it on.
So what voting does it give? You voted, you didn't vote, or?
Well, I didn't grab there's two tables. This is just the list of voters, and then there's actual voting in the other table. I could have created a quick database, linked them together, and I could have found out who everyone voted for over the past 27 years.
You can tell who they voted for?
Yes, the other table is the vote history.
How do they
This
get
is a
that?
voters list, there's also a history.
How do they get that? It's supposed to be.
Yeah, you'd like to think, again, this is not the bright and happy Google side of the internet that I found this on.
You can't tell who person voted for, just the fact that they voted.
You can tell if they vote straight party, you can tell.
If they vote straight party.
Yep.
You can't
I
tell.
didn't drill down enough into the data. I started looking at the data and I saw actual voting records. I was like, oh, getting rid of this because I don't do that stuff. I was trying to find this just to prove how easy it was, and I opened a huge can of worms when I did that.
That list that you have there is very popular with politicians.
Yes, it is.
They take it and they send it out.
Yeah, politicians use this kind of list all the time, and this is freely available because you registered to vote. There you go. That's it. And this has all of Michigan. I just happened to narrow it down just to Traverse City, and then I went to the H's just so I could grab my parents and then my sister. Just to say, hey, this is how easy it is. And I blurred out their actual street addresses because I didn't want that also on YouTube. I did that after Vicki said she was going to record this and put this on YouTube. I came into this slide and I opened it up and I was like, let's blur all that out. We don't need that. So yeah, it's crazy, and it gives an actual voter ID on this also. This is what this mysterious fourth column is here. So all of us, and this is what Cambridge Analytica used. They were like, okay, well, let's grab all of Michigan today, and then they would grab that data, which, in case you're curious, is a 3.5 gig file of nothing but text. So huge file. So they grabbed that. Now,
do you know if those voting ID numbers have been used to attempt to do double voting, or?
All right, so the double voting thing that the toddler-in-chief claims, over a 12-year span, it was found to be used exactly 12 times over 12 years.
In the whole country?
In the whole country.
We gotta stamp that out.
Yeah, because that doesn't happen. So, and this, because we have all that data, and we can look at all that data, it was used to change views of what was going to happen. Because, oh, someone's ringing, that's what it is. This is from Alexander Nix, CEO of Cambridge Analytica. Today in the United States, we have somewhere close to 4,000 or 5,000 points, or data points on every individual. That's a lot of data. So we model the personality of every adult across the United States, some 230 million people. And that was in October of 2016. Huh. And what happened the next month? So, because they had all that data, they were able to start tailoring their advertising based off of the margins of the data. They know, because they can find out, okay, well, this person votes straight party Democrat all the time. We can't affect what they believe. This person, straight party Republican all the time. We can't affect what they do. But this person, and we saw in mine, political affiliation, unaffiliated. I am not registered Republican or Democrat. So I was part of the target for their advertising. And that's all freely available information. 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, I found myself. I found all my family. Found out that my mom is a registered Democrat, my dad a registered Republican, even though my dad hasn't voted Republican since the 90s. So, figure that one out. But because of that, they were able to make advertising like, save time, avoid the line, vote from home.
But that's just absolutely untrue.
It is 100% untrue, but do you know how many people saw this ad?
Sure.
That means, so they didn't go to the polls, they didn't vote. The last election, we had the lowest voter turnout since, what was it, 1992? Since Clinton took office? I mean, that is insane to me. Yeah.
If you vote basically straight Democratic, but you don't do the thing where it's, I'm voting straight Democratic, but you do it individually, is it still registered?
It will not pick it up unless you are registered to a political party, and that's mostly what I think that data was picking up on was your party affiliations. So if you go through and fill in all the bubbles and say, you know, this Democrat, this Democrat, this Democrat, well, this Green Party, this Democrat, all left-leaning ones, but you're not a registered Democrat, then it's not going to pick up on it, and you're going to be a target of these ads because you're no longer party affiliated.
I just received a questionnaire from Trump.
Yes.
For next year's.
I did too. I was going to bring that in today, but it's sitting on my desk right now. I actually think I'm going to have a ritualistic burning of it later.
Yeah.
Were you then, because you weren't affiliated, one of the targeted persuadables in Michigan?
I was. Yeah.
Okay.
I saw all of these ads pop in through Facebook and Instagram because I am unaffiliated in party. Yeah.
There appears to be a constellation of variables they tap into. What are the constellation of variables, and are they weighted in any way?
The variables that they really use, they look first and foremost at whether or not you're registered to a political party. Secondly, they look at your age, because generally speaking, people that are 40 plus are going to vote. People that are younger aren't going to vote. And with this new generation, they want the convenience of being able to vote online, so they saw ads like this. And that was part of what they looked at is, we want to really create ambivalence in our 18 to 40-year-old population so they don't go vote. Because those people generally are going to vote Democrat simply because they want to see progress in the nation, not regression. We don't want to go back to the 1950s. And the young people know that and see that and don't and will vote Democrat. So they really urge them, go vote from home. You can totally do that, I swear. They didn't say that, you know, you had to get your absentee ballot 6 months in advance and blah, blah, blah. They just said, go do it. They waited until after the absentee time to start running that ad.
Wow.
Now, these ads are very different.
They are. They are.
The one on the far left is factually wrong.
That is factually incorrect.
The pure evil is not factually wrong. That's a matter of opinion.
It is a matter of opinion. Yeah.
So is that illegal, the one on the far left?
All of this was illegal.
All of it?
All of it was illegal because, I can't read it, it's too small, but this was Republicans of Texas that posted that one.
Is anybody in prison for having done this?
Not a one.
Oh, Jesus.
No one went to prison for this. No one. Yeah.
We've been getting some of those Trump, questionnaires too and stuff, but I don't remember ever registering Republican. Is it possible that once when we lived in Holland, we signed up to see one of Bush Jr.'s rallies in Holland? Is it possible they got it that way somehow?
That very well could be the case. The reason I got it, because I was thinking back on this, when I was in the military, Bush in 2000 came around to my base, and I had to be on the honor detail for him, which was absolutely horrible. By the way, he has a really weak handshake, in case you're curious. They had to get everyone's names that were going to be on the honor detail. My guess is that's how I got the questionnaire for Trump. That's my only guess, because I try to avoid all political affiliation because I vote for who I think is best for the country, not because it says Republican or Democrat. So I truly am an unregistered. But yeah, this one is opinion, pure evil. This one, you can't read it, but this is from an Instagram one, and it says, this is the way our children have to be raised. It's not a...
holding guns?
Yeah, it's not the premonition of violence, it's the premonition of confidence and the ability to defend oneself. Yes. So these three are wildly different, and all three of these were paid for by Cambridge Analytica, by their research. And the campaigns that paid for their research paid for these ads based off of that research.
Before you leave the subject of targeting the ads, could you say something about the media through which the ads are targeted?
This media?
Including, I'm thinking, cable television.
Well, cable television is a little different because the FCC regulates what can be shown on television. You can have attack ads, but they must be truthful and must disclose who paid for it.
I'm thinking of the targeting, of the audience targeting.
Well, that's...
Behavioral marketing is what I hear.
Oh man, behavioral marketing. That's not as big of an issue now as it used to be, because now, if you look at all the media, and despite someone claiming the liberal media, if you look at almost every news channel in the nation, they are owned by one company. Sinclair.
Yep.
Of our 4 news channels in northern Michigan here, we have Fox, ABC, NBC, CBS. Which ones does Sinclair own?
7 and 4, 29 and 8.
7 and 4, 29 and 8. Where do most people see their nightly news? 7 and 4, 29 and 8. So do you think there might be a political bias going on with that? That's perfectly legal. Because your parent company gets to tailor what news is shown. And they give false stories all the time. If you follow Up North Live on Facebook, they will put out surveys which first off are completely arbitrary and non-indicative of anything. And secondly, they show local news stories as Southern Michigan. That's not local to us. How we live up here in Northern Michigan is nothing like Ann Arbor. Nothing at all. So, it's interesting because advertising on television is, first off, far more expensive than advertising on social media. Secondly, it also has a more limited scope now. Because in 2012, and this was a scary fact for me to find. In 2012, the number of people getting news from social media sites surpassed the number of people that watch nightly news and read the newspaper combined. Because more young people are now on social media, and they're going to see that. And what's more, and it's estimated, there is no proof on this one, but the estimate is that at this point, as of last year, more people read the headlines and form an opinion on a headline only over the content of news. So you see these headlines, pure evil. Well, you're 18 years old, and in Texas, this is something you follow. Yeah, she's probably really bad. There's no way I'm going to vote for her. Oh yeah, I firmly support people teaching their children how to responsibly use guns. I'm all for that. Oh, well, and sponsored link. But that doesn't matter. It's interesting when you look at it, is most people ignore the byline of a news article, right? When's the last time you recall looking at the byline in the newspaper? You read the headline and go right to the article, right? Read the headline and go right to the article. And it's scary, scary stuff. And this was all from Cambridge Analytica. Yeah.
Talking about bias in the local channels, I think after one of the women's marches, and that was all over, Traverse City had like 2,000.
Oh my gosh, I was there.
But when you look on one of the, I can't remember which station it was probably one of the Sinclair ones. The only one they showed was this really tiny one from Clare, Michigan. Like
that was 7 and 4 that showed that one.
Yeah, like 20 people. I thought that was.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there were 2,000, almost 2,500 of us downtown for that march. And it didn't get any coverage from the Sinclair channels because it goes against what they want people to know. And Sinclair and Cambridge do the exact same thing. But Cambridge has a much broader scope than what Sinclair can do because Cambridge affects the world. Sinclair is this, this area, this nation. Yeah.
I recommend that everyone watch Channel 10.
You know what? Channel 10 is 9 and 10 is what I go to now because they are not Sinclair. Fox 33, 32, whatever it is this year, also a good choice because they are not owned by a megacorp like Sinclair.
They're owned by Heritage Broadcasting,
Yes.
which is
same owner, but they have made a policy that they don't interfere with what the news broadcasters do.
Oh, so they actually do journalism and news. My wife is pretty passionate about this also because she is a journalist and she works for the college newspaper. So, oh, do all of us remember this one? Oh, Hillary Clinton exposed coffee fit during speech in Cleveland, Ohio. Too sick for office. This is actually, I grabbed a still from this from YouTube. It was posted by C-SPAN. C-SPAN didn't have this headline. I saw, when I looked up, okay, well, I remember this whole Hillary Clinton was coughing thing. She's way too sick to be in office. And one of the other ones is she collapsed while going to a car and all of this. And she didn't collapse. She tripped, first off. With this, yeah, you would be coughing too if this was your 5th speech of the day. Mm-hmm. So, you know, but it was used to really target what people wanted to believe. Who watches YouTube? Kids! All of a sudden, kids are saying, oh, we can't vote for her. She's going to die in office. Even though she was 5 years younger than the toddler that we have in there right now, it doesn't matter. She's too sick. We can't vote for her. Think about it. All of us are, you know, we are world wise enough to know that, you know, okay, she probably just had a dry throat. How many times have I walked over and had a drink of my coffee since I started talking today? No one paid attention. It's 4 o'clock. So yeah. Hey, guess what? I haven't even been talking for, you know, multiple hours like her at this point. I needed a drink. Why can't she?
So what do we do about all this?
What do we do?
It seems to me, if I just add a little to the question, it seems to me that most of the advice we get has to do with protecting our own personal information. But this room is not full of persuadables. Even if those ads were sent to us, we wouldn't believe them. So there are people out there who are not protecting their information, who are going to get these ads. What, if anything,
hold that thought. I actually have a couple of slides about what we do, because that's an important thing to ask, and that's the big reason, big thing. In what I printed out, I have like 7 pages of stuff there, and what we should do is 2.5 of those 7 pages, maybe 3 pages, because it's super important to me. So before we talk about that, we have to talk about fake news, because not only were they responsible for advertising, they were responsible for actually generating the stigma of fake news. I don't believe it, therefore it's fake. I just mentioned that, people's primary source of news over the past decade is now social media. You read headlines only to form a view of the world. So we know about places that all they do is play in fake news, right? Can you name any of them? Like this guy? He's still around.
It's fake news, but hasn't he claimed to be entertainment instead?
All right, so he has claimed to be entertainment, and that's exactly it. And that's why he did not get thrown in prison for purveying a bunch of conspiracy theory fake news stuff. But what about this guy? Does not he claim to tell news, though? Oh, well, him and all of his cronies that are at that station, they claim to be news. Their advertising says, you know, fair and balanced news. Yeah? So, yeah, Shepard Smith just left like yesterday. I saw that and I laughed. And actually what's horrible is while I was working on all this stuff, whistleblower stuff started. I was like, oh my gosh, and that could have drastically changed what I talked about, but I actually stayed on focus, and it was hard. But he claims that he's telling news, right? But Fox News, if you look them up, is news entertainment. They're not even a news organization. They claim to be giving news, fair and balanced, but they are news entertainment. They are there for entertainment.
I don't call what he's doing entertainment personally.
His followers do.
Yeah.
Well, I know that some friends of mine who follow this stuff, they claim it's news when it suits them, and then they claim it's entertainment when it suits them.
Yes, yes. You know, you boil it down into a few words, people are going to pick up on that. The people that are of the lower intelligence are going to be able to chant, lock her up, because she didn't do anything wrong. But now when he does something wildly wrong, it's a coup. You know, so, and he does that, you know. He made people, you know, say, oh, that's fake news, because they didn't agree with it. But some of the fun ones, all of you know about Politico, right? Politico is a great site for actually getting true, down the middle, political news. Well, here's a site right in the middle, Politico, instead of Politico. It's Political-o. And, you know, then there's some other obvious ones like President45DonaldTrump.com. Yeah.
How does Google determine that these sites are fake news?
So Google hasn't determined anything about these sites. Do you know who has? Zuckerberg and crew. If you look at the news, ever since Zuckerberg had to testify before Congress, what they have done is they have made it so fake news sites can no longer be advertised, and radicalizing posts are removed by an algorithm.
But they just generate new ones.
They generate new ones, but now Facebook is actively working on changing their algorithms to pick up on more of those radicalizing posts. Unfortunately, it does catch some that are not, but overall, they are making the effort. Twitter has also said that anything that is done by fake news will be removed. Both of them, including YouTube, also have said that InfoWars will no longer be able to post anything on any of their sites. And that's huge. Huge!
How does Trump still have a Twitter account then?
Because Trump has a Twitter account because they have determined that he has the right to free speech like every one of us has. They also said that legally he cannot block people on Twitter.
He can do whatever he wants.
He cannot legally block anyone on Twitter. Which is why I make it a point now to send him a direct message daily telling him how horrible he is.
Currently, on Facebook, with President Trump, he has a ad out there that's saying about the Second Amendment, how it's going to be rescinded if Democrats get elected. It's a fake ad, it's a lie ad. Facebook is not taking it down.
Because, all right, so Facebook isn't taking that down because we know that it's not a true ad. But because it's a future-looking advertising, they can't say that this is wrong and it's not going to happen because there's a chance that it could happen. So therefore, give me money.
Yeah, it's all about fake.
Yeah, it's all about money.
But at least Elizabeth Warren responded by putting out a totally fake ad herself by saying it's fake. And this just happened within the last 24 hours.
I know.
So she's calling them out on their own game.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's weird because there's so many gray areas, and you know, Facebook is really proactive about it, but they're still in business to make money. So they're going to take advertising dollars as long as it doesn't block their specific guidelines. But if it's on the fringe of it, that's close enough because we need money still, because otherwise they're not a business anymore. They're a charity.
Well, Facebook just agreed this past week that they were going to be taking $1.6 million for all the ads that Trump is putting up.
Yeah.
Not anything.
No. $1.6 million. Yeah, I saw that one earlier this week. I was like, what in the heck? But again, he has the right to free speech just like every other candidate does. So, you know, you can't limit one without limiting all.
So how do we then teach criticality and skepticism without teaching cynicism?
So, all right. So before we talk about solutions, there's one more. My wife gave me told me, oh yeah, there's games about fake news out there. So I did a quick look, and this is available on your phone. That's a thing, and sure enough, it is. And NPR is the one that I found this from. A game.
Is it accurate?
It is accurate. Fake news shouldn't be a game, though. Fake news is facetious news articles like this should not be ones that we make a game out of, because that's trivializing it, and that changes the scope of our country entirely. If we're saying, oh yeah, let's just make a game out of all of this because, you know, whatever, it's funny, haha, it's fake news. Well, how many people truly believe all this stuff, and how does it affect the viewpoints? Wow, okay, it is going. Took a little time. So, I added this just because I found it so disgusting. And there's more than just these two. There were, when I looked for fake news games, like 4,000 of them came up. And we can't all believe that fake news is something we should be laughing about. When it's put us in the state that we're at in this nation, where we deal with kids being put in cages, where we deal with people being arrested from the military and deported. That's not a game. But, by God, they're making money. They're monetizing fake news.
Excuse me.
Yes.
To your list of
yes.
hundreds of fake news sites.
Yes.
Has there been any research on the money behind this?
Most of these do not make, they don't make money per se, but they will have places where you can go to donate to them. Most of them are not even based out of the United States.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean,
yeah.
Has there been any, can you trace where they come from?
You can. With a little bit of network know-how, you can trace back where they come from. The reason I pointed out President45DonaldTrump.com is because that's actually based out of Australia. That one caught my eye, so I was like, all right, I wonder where that one comes from. It's based out of Perth.
There's probably foreign money financing these.
Yes. Not only is it you know, marketing dollars from Cambridge, it's foreign dollars in our election process and modifying political views for our nation. Hell, our toddler told other countries, go ahead and affect our next election. Yeah, please, change our elections. Why? Because he's not going to get elected without cheating. Well, hopefully he's going to be in prison instead of on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen. Him and all of his cronies that he drained the swamp to the White House with. So, laptop battery critically low. Uh-oh. I knew I forgot to charge it. Let me plug this in real quick before we lose it. Uh-oh. I lost it. Man, it really wasn't kidding when it said critically low.
So the surveys that you get on the internet here and there and all over the place, is it really better not to even fill them out? And you get them in the mail too. Some they're from the Democratic Party, some of them are from Trump himself. Is it better just not even to fill them out?
Oh yeah, don't. I would definitely recommend don't even think about filling them out. Oh wow, I think my laptop may have died entirely because it's not turning back on now. Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, it shows that it's charging, but it's not turning on.
You've been attacked. Charging, can I ask a practical question, or at least confirm what I do?
Yes.
Just this morning, I get a message from Google that they want to confirm my phone number because that's how they can help me rescue my... I don't do any of that stuff anymore.
All right.
Am I correct?
So
I'm assuming I am.
I know where I'm going with this, because the next thing we were going to talk about is what we can do. How we can stop and start helping. Rather than stopping, we need to start helping. And one of the first things is, how many of us have these inner pockets right now. How many of you can turn off the microphone on your phone? I doubt it. There are exactly 0 phones on the market right now where you can turn off the microphone. You have an old phone?
I have a flip phone.
A flip phone? I was saying, the only security you have is if you don't have a smartphone. Now, here's the thing though, is we need these, right? We need these with us all the time. Not really. Oh, by the way, I hate cell phones. They listen to you 24/7. How many of you have assistant at home? Google Home or Amazon Alexa, or use Siri on your phone, or the Google thing? Do you know what? Those listen to you 100% of the time. How else can they respond?
So even when your phone is turned completely off?
If it is completely off, you're safe. That's it. Because when it's off, it can't pick up anything.
You mean powered off?
Yeah. Powered off entirely, yes.
They can hear it through your smart TVs as well. Right?
Smart TVs, your home assistants, any of that. Because they all have microphones listed or on them.
There is a website you can go to though, where you can hear or see what they've actually recorded. There's a story on NPR about it a couple of months ago.
I saw that and I tried to get to the site and I actually could not get the site to load.
Was that back?
No.
Yeah.
It may have been. Yeah. It's actually, there's a pretty good possibility it was. So be aware of your surroundings, because if you're at someone's home and they have a device like that, be aware that it's listening. Mind you, almost all of them, you can turn off the microphone of those home assistants, but you can't turn off other people's phones. Have any of you noticed that while you're talking about something with a friend, suddenly you start getting ads on your phone when you're scrolling through Facebook about what you were just talking about?
Crazy.
You are not going crazy. That's monetization.
Right.
We are all data points.
I read an article the other day that said that if you carry your phone into a store, there are devices now that are monitoring where you're stopping, what you pick up.
So there are, yes, because see, we're opening a big can here, because largely what we really have to look at is your personal habits rather than anything else. With your phone, the fastest way you can make it so you aren't tracked as easily is turn off location services. But when you do that, you can't use a GPS.
You can turn that back on and off.
You can turn it on and off, yes, but that's an extra step, and most people don't want to take it. And think about all these kids now. These kids just keep it on all the time. They turn on their GPS to go to the store that they've been at 1,000 times. They're not, maybe it's just me, but if I drive somewhere once, I can get back there without any assistance. I drive down to Saginaw, go to the VA hospital. I don't need directions. I went there once with a map, and this was before I had a GPS or a smartphone or anything. And now I can get back there without even thinking about it. I know right where to go to get there.
You're checking traffic, right?
Huh?
You're checking traffic.
Checking traffic. Yeah. So, all of us have cell phones. You have to be aware more of what you can do, though. But that fake news is super important also, because we have to be able to tell how and what is this facetious news that we're seeing. Don't just read the headlines. Yeah.
Can you disable Siri?
You can disable Siri, and I recommend that to any iPhone user to disable Siri, and if you have an Android phone, to disable your Google Assistant on that also, which you can do through your settings.
I think it's a good idea to go through settings and unactivate everything.
Yeah. If you can't identify what exactly something is needed for, turn it off. I tell that to my students and they're like, well, we can't do that, that's needed for such and such. Well, no, it isn't. You just want to use it because it's convenience.
And there's just in the past few days, after the last update on my phone, now I get a box up that'll say, XYZ has been using your location. Do you want to let it go or only when you're using the app. The latter of which I am choosing, so my little ways of thumbing my nose at them.
Yes, yeah, and that's good. And you had to be a smart user. Because again, you own your data. No one else owns your data. You own your data. You get to limit when and where you are going to give that data out. But fake news, because it affects all of us, is something that we all have to be aware of. And I love telling my students, my impressionable college students, what fake news actually is and how to check for it. Do you just read the headlines, or do you actually read the article? Step one, read the article. Because so many people get the news just from reading a headline, and they base their entire beliefs off of what they read in headlines.
You know, as far as political action is concerned, you know, there are these things that we can do personally. I just asked the gentleman next to me here, who's an attorney, whether the U.S.-based social media like Facebook are licensed by the government to operate. And he said no, which is what I thought was probably the case anyhow. But, you know, even for television stations and radio stations, they are licensed to operate by the government. And they're licensed specifically to operate in the public interest. So about 10, 15 years ago, I emailed the head of the FCC and asked him if any radio station or television station had ever lost its, failed to get its license renewed as a result of not operating in the public interest. Has that ever happened?
Not to my knowledge.
And what I asked him, and if not, why not? The answer I got back was, no, it never has happened. And the reason is that Congress specifically forbids it from happening.
So why even have an FCC?
So it's a joke. In other words, it's a joke.
Yeah. It's just to make the people
it's in the
feel
licensing
good.
agreement. Those sorts of things, you know, need to change. Another thing, of course, that we no longer have is the requirement that we used to have that news be balanced. You know, that was changed during the Reagan administration.
Yeah, that was changed during Reagan, and
fairness doctrine.
The fairness doctrine.
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember what that was. Yeah.
So the fake news site list, that's by Facebook or Google?
This list was actually aggregated by neither of them. This was PolitiFact.
PolitiFact.
Had
So
this list.
why not have some entity, Facebook, Google, or PolitiFact, give certification to valid news sites so that when you want to get news you can look for, like charities get certified by Charity Navigator, BBC entities
The big reason why that won't happen is because the internet is global, and you know we have a hard enough time reaching other countries for entertainment purposes. There's the NFL plays 1 or 2 games a year in England now, and that took 12 years of work to make happen because of the legality issues between the two. And that's the NFL, which is the probably the second largest purveyor of entertainment on the face of the planet. So being able to have some entity, say, PolitiFact, be able to contact the host countries for these sites and or any sites.
If you're going to advertise in the U.S. on like Facebook and throw ads at people, then I would suggest that you get and it's voluntary. If that you want to get approval from Facebook that you are an authentic.
I think that would be great, but again, Facebook is in business for making money, and if they have to do that, and Google, last I checked, was like $320 a share. So they're in business to make money also, and that's why when you do a Google search, the first few links that you always see are sponsored links, because those are people that pay.
Well, users demand it. Users say, hey,
if users demand it, it will change.
Will you take the time to certify sites that we can rely on for authentic news?
That would be nice.
Just be a matter of time until there's.
Well, we like to think that, but and every news agency has some political bias to it.
So where do you draw the line on what's accurate and what's political pandering?
So obviously not accurate.
Well, we know that, but the whole thing is when you're a corporation, you're in business to make money. They don't care as much because it's about money, not about truth. And that's what it all boils down to, is it's all about money. And you know, we have such a hard time differentiating between I'm doing this to make money or I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. And when you're talking about a corporation, there is no doing it because it's the right thing. It's about this is what I'm doing to make money. So, spotting falsehoods, spreading facts. Read beyond the headline. You know, I'm hoping all of us at this point don't just look at a headline and say, okay, that's it. That's all I'm using to base my entire opinion on. We're going to actually read the articles. Biggest one, and this happened while I was working on this, all these states banning flavored vapes. Why? Based on 800 people dying from it, but if you read the articles, all the deaths have been attributed to people vaping THC, not flavored nicotines. Not all, almost all, across the board. And that's 800. In that same time frame, how many people died from cancer from smoking cigarettes? Yeah. So, you know, and that happened while I was working on this. So,
25% of high school students are now vaping.
Would you rather they smoke? When I was in high school, I smoked.
You know what? They weren't smoking either.
I know. Check the author. That byline that we were is because they don't consider the source. Or even better, check the date of it. You'd be surprised how cyclical things are. You know, some of this stuff that we're seeing could have been reported a decade ago, and it would have been equally as viable. Or not, as the case may be. And consult experts. Are any of us experts on this? No. To some degree. And to some degree, all of us are more of an expert than the vast majority of the populace. And make people consult experts, you know. Give alternative ways of figuring out. You know who some experts are? PolitiFact. It is, I can't tell you how many times I check PolitiFact or Snopes. Both of those are really, really good at saying what's real and what's fake. Yeah, there's, let's see, hold on. I thought I had fact check. Yep, that was the other one. I was like, I had 3 listed and I couldn't remember what the third was. But yeah, it's fact check.
Yeah, this may be in your longer list, but I find it helpful often to tell people the more extravagant the claim or the assertion, the more your spidey sense should go on.
Actually, I have that in my read beyond the headline, because when you read a headline, headlines are sensationalist. What's the purpose of a headline? To get your attention. But in this age of the internet, headlines now, and I guarantee all of you have heard the term, clickbait. Headlines have become more sensationalist to get people to click on their links, because when you click on the link, they get advertising dollars, and it all goes back to money. Yeah.
Can we wrap up in like 10 minutes, because
yes.
we only have the room reserved for so long?
Yep, I actually am almost done. So,
what else can we do?
What else can we do? First off, stop spreading your data. And this is what everyone needs to do. We already talked about your electronic surroundings, but the second bullet point is one of my favorites on the list. Lie, lie, lie. All right, so, hey, if you're signing up for a website, do they need to know what your birthday is? Not at all. Not only am I 43-year-old David Hollister from Traverse City, Michigan, I am also John Wiggins, who was born April 1st, 1973. Lie, lie, lie. I looked myself up on the same site I found the real me on. The fake me has information. Yeah.
That's good. It's all fake.
It's all fake. And I made it all up.
That's what happened in Macomb County. All the people lied to the survey people, and they had a false sense of Democratic victory.
Well, you know, right now, because we are facing a census next year, I firmly urge all of you to lie on the census. I mean, aside from the legal ramifications therein, if they put a question, which still hasn't been resolved, can they ask a question about your nationality? Still has not been resolved that I know of. If that's on there, I 100% will not fill out that survey.
Well, you know, that's kind of silly. Those questions have been on the survey since 1910.
Yeah.
I have copies of the surveys from 1910, 1920, 1930, 1940. And questions about nationality are common.
They're always there.
Y'all have
Yes,
a separate issue now because the question is intended to dissuade Spanish voters.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah,
clear.
but they aren't asking about your citizenship, so you're okay.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Get a throwaway email address. I have 4 email addresses that I use just for signing up for other sites that aren't ones that I give a damn about. You know, obviously don't lie on governmental forms. That's, you know, illegal, or job applications or anything like that. But all of these garbage sites that you sign up for, never, ever, ever give your real information, ever. Use a throwaway email address because, you know, my personal email, I get maybe 2 junk mails a month in, but my throwaway ones, that's all they get is junk. And guess what comes in through junk mail? Advertising. Political or corporate advertising. Limit your scope of social media. You know, it's, let's see, where was I? Use things like ad blockers when I don't know, do all of you use your mobile devices or do you use an actual computer when you go to social media? Both. On your computers, and you can't see it when I'm in full screen like this. I have things that I add to my browsers to make it so I don't see advertising anymore. You can ad block for Facebook, ad block from YouTube. You can get all of these things, and that's going to limit the scope of your social media footprint. Super important. The other thing, every time you like something, every time you share something, anytime you make a comment on someone else's post or even your own, and depending on your security settings, that's a data point for people. Social media is one of the worst things that has happened to this world. And yet, you all need it to be able to work with things now. Yeah?
I tried ad blocking CNN.com and wouldn't allow me to load CNN.com anymore. It actually said you have to remove your...
Yeah, and I can tell you one of the other things I do is I use a VPN. That's a different topic altogether. But that's a different way to limit the scope of things because, you know, I run proxy servers and ad blockers and VPNs. So, and you own your data. You keep it safe. You don't let someone else be the broker for your data. I've really stressed that, and I truly, truly believe that everyone needs to do that.
What choice do we have in keeping it safe?
What choice do you have?
How can you stop it?
You can't. That's the bad news of all of this, is you can't stop it. But you can change the focus of it from you to a fake you. And you'll still see it, but you'll know that, hey, this is John Wiggins hearing all this stuff, not David Hostler.
Yeah.
And I actually urge my students to do this. You know, you don't have a social security number or anything for this person, so it's not an actual illegal offense to lie to something that's not governmental. Store cards are a great thing. We talked about it earlier that, you know, if you get a store card, it tracks all of your purchases. That says a lot about you when, you know, you buy certain products. That tells someone about you. And the store uses that to sell your data to advertisers. So you need to be really, really aware of what you are doing to yourself and discourage relatives from doing it. And if, you know, we had 270,000 people that used Your Digital Life
Well, we're a group of 60 people right now. If we use the same mentality, we can spread out like they did and actually make a difference.
Is there a way to protect your credit card, because some of that data I think is aggregated and sold?
The only way you can protect a credit card is by adding the credit protection to it, which costs extra money.
And then it won't be sold to someone else?
No, it's still sold. But that protects you if your credit card is stolen or used by someone that isn't you. It protects you that way, and that's the only thing it does.
So they have the data, they'll sell it?
Yeah. Yep. If they have the data, they'll sell it because again, they're in business to make money.
I'm giving them the data.
Yep. Only if you want a credit card, which you need if you want to, do things like rent a car or a hotel room or anything like that, because very few people accept cash anymore.
Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
Cash is nice.
Because we're a plastic society now.
Is this board over here data to be mined?
All right, so Vicky, since you're recording this,
yeah.
At any point, did you swipe across that board while you were recording?
You know, I dropped the phone a couple of times and I actually got some of your faces.
This is no lie. Some of my students were very, very concerned that I was going to do this. They said, well, what happens if someone like the FBI finds out that you did this? Who cares? I am more than willing to stand up here and say, I hope the top learner chief goes to jail. Go ahead and arrest me for speaking that. I don't give a damn. Free speech. He wants to use it, I get to use it.
Yeah, that's right.
We've had this board which has changed significantly and over the past month. So now it's a very targeted board.
If at any point that was on this recording that's going to go on YouTube, that can be data scraped.
I don't think you're gonna be able to read it because I was sitting over there.
I don't think from over there it'd be readable. But if it is, then yeah, definitely.
Because our names are
non-binding.
Right. But yes, it doesn't show
an endorsement. It's not an endorsement.
It's not an endorsement, but it does tell certain campaigns because Republicans aren't the only one that use sources like Cambridge Analytica. All political parties do it. All of them. All campaigns do it. So that could really tell certain campaigns that are out there, oh boy, well, we're really, really having to focus on this area. Maybe we should actually send someone of value up there this election.
Yeah. Somebody works use the phone, take a picture of this and post it on social media.
If you take a picture of it and put it on social media, there's a data point. But the bonus of that is that no one should be connected to that aside from me at this point. Because I should be, hopefully, the only face that's been really targeted with this video. And that's good for all of you because we don't want you guys to become data points. And because we have about 2 minutes left, I do have the sources that I use to gather this information. There are a few that I missed on here. But by and large, this is the sources and articles, and consumer.ftc.gov was a great resource for some of the ways to protect yourself. And last but not least, you're never going to stop Cambridge Analytica. There's always going to be some anonymous face that is going to be gathering your data. You be safe.
Thank you so much.